All right, welcome to another episode of the Freezin for NFC North Podcast. This is number 5, Week 15 preview. How's it going, everyone?
Good. How are you?
Doing
Joined
good.
by Gridiron Grubb and Daniele. We're waiting on Cooper. He's having some technical difficulties, but we can wait on the Vikings. I'm sure we'll get another epic rant, right?
If it can equal last week's, then it'll be good.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know if anything can top that.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. So, well, let's get right into not really my most exciting topic for me, but the Bears-Packers matchup review. Obviously, it was a fun second quarter for the Bears and Packers. The Bears, made it interesting, and then there were some second half adjustments. First of all, how nervous were you watching that, Danielle?
Well, being Bears and Packers, I knew that the Bears would come out to play, even though they're really not playing for much. Um, but I knew that they weren't going to just roll over, especially against the Packers. Um, the first half, I was a little bit nervous. They were actually coming out and playing better than I expected. Um, Devontae was pretty held up there for a little bit. But as soon as Quinn, I think it was, mocked the belt, I wasn't nervous anymore after that. I knew they were going to win.
Yeah, I was seeing that on Twitter. Robert Quinn with mocking the belt, and yeah,
But
I saw that.
But they came out in the second half, and I feel like the Packers made their adjustments with Devontae. Instead of being on the outside, they moved him into the slot, which obviously made a world of a difference. Um, but I feel like Nagy, I mean, he said he was having fun at halftime, so he must have been having too much fun to make some adjustments for the second half. I think he, I think he left his game plan the same because they were doing so well. I don't think he really changed much, whereas the Packers did. So, um, but yeah, I was a little bit nervous. The special teams made me more nervous than the Bears did. Our special teams.
Yeah,
That was embarrassing. So.
yeah, I gotta say, I have not been that excited watching the Bears game. When I saw that return, I was clapping and excited. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm cheering. I mean, it was fun as a Bears fan, and just kind of like, it's like you're going to an amusement park. You just forget all the troubles, forget the rest of everything's going wrong, and that was a heck of a quarter, heck of a first half, I guess, for the Bears. And they said like everything went right, and we're still just barely. I mean, we hit by 6 points at halftime, but from a Bears perspective, Jalen Johnson, he was shutting down Adams, and going for the future, that's a positive from a Bears fan to see that defensively that he was able to really, shut down one of the top, if not the top, wide receiver in the game.
I believe that Devontae posted, I want to say Instagram, somewhere on social media. I think it was a picture of him saying that he was a great player. So Devontae did acknowledge that.
Yeah, and that was cool to see. I mean, that's cool that obviously they're recognizing when another player is that good, and especially in the rivalry you want to see that. And I really liked what I saw out of Justin Fields. He was really a lot of escapability, and just making plays happen. There weren't too many design runs for him, but he was really keeping the game exciting, and just there was really no answer for first half, at least contained for Justin Fields. So I liked that at least.
Yeah, I think he did a good job. And then Aaron Rodgers also came out and complimented him and said that he had star qualities. He I he was under some pressure at some points and was getting out of it, and I think he has a good future. And hopefully Aaron's going to be with us, so hopefully Justin Fields' future is not going to matter for a few years.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, let's talk a little bit about something that I feel did matter. Like I was getting excited for the game. I thought, oh, hey, maybe they have a shot, and then I forgot. Well, you got Aaron Rodgers. But something that I was not a fan of, and I was tweeting you guys during the game, and tweeting texting my Packer friends that I didn't think it was officiated very well. The Bears actually had a chance, surprisingly, to make it a game, and despite everything that Nagy didn't do, there was that recovery, and I guess I didn't realize you can't. If you have a recovery, you can't advance it. So then I thought it was going to be a touchdown. That would just been crazy. But then there's this crazy penalty. And as a Packer fan, you say, oh, well, he went out of bounds. But I looked as a Bears fan. He was being pushed out of bounds. He was so I don't know. I just was not a fan of the officiating on that.
I told you, I don't know why, what I was doing. I missed that play. I did not see it live. So did the Packers friends that you texted, did they agree with you?
Well, to say, you seem to be exactly like the referees. They missed that call as well.
Well, you know what? They called Rasul Douglas for.
I thought that was a bad call.
You did
it
too?
Was because the rule is if you keep I know if you go out of bounds on your own, so it was a very touchy.
It was close.
It was very touchy to that, right? That was a very tick-tacky call, but to throw the flag, he actually he forced his way back into the field. Mm-hmm. And usually, unless they run down the sideline, the refs don't even pay attention to that because, the guy, if he doesn't come back in bounds, then they'll throw the flag on him and we get it. But and I know you can't run out of bounds on your own, but that was kind of that's a nitpicky call in that portion of the game. But
it was Lambeau home cooking.
Yeah,
well, they were just making up for that defensive pass interference against Rasul Douglas. So there's that. That was a makeup call. But I mean, Aaron played lights out. I don't see them losing that game. I mean, our special teams did everything they possibly could to give away that game, and Aaron still was just Aaron Rodgers, and he played amazing. And I don't see them losing that just because of that call. But
welcome Cooper to the exciting Bears Packers conversation here. Yeah,
we know him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're right, and it is tough as a Bears fan to kind of sit back and watch Aaron Rodgers and just know that he's there and he's just better than anybody the Bears have. And I like what Fields has done, but a player can only do so much. And getting back to Nagy, what was interesting, you talked about that earlier, Danielle, with the adjustments and with Adams, because he was shut down in the first half. But yeah, I mean, Nagy basically came out and he was asked if the Packers had done anything different in the second half, and his answer was no. Yeah, his answer was no. He said no, they were doing the same thing. Jalen Johnson said no, the Packers, and he had all these specific reasons. He said that. Aaron Rodgers came out and said, "Oh yeah, we made adjustments," and then you also talked about the comments of Nagy saying, "Oh, it was so much fun." I'm like, you're an NFL coach. Yes, it was fun. A fan should say that, not an NFL coach. And the game wasn't even over yet. And you have Aaron Rodgers. So maybe I'm ready for my rant.
I think that was the Bears. I think that was when the Bears were up at halftime when he said he was having so much fun.
By 6.
And then the Packers made their adjustments and Nagy was not having fun anymore.
No, and I wasn't either. So
So Cooper, the call that I think it was when MVS did not recover the onside kick, then the player went out of bounds. Was that play that you're talking about? Where you think the ref?
The onside. I am. I mean, I just every time I see an onside kick that gets called back, I feel like it's oftentimes for, not every time, but it's oftentimes for a new reason. Right. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you couldn't do that. Right? Yeah. So that when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, I guess you can do that.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm on my phone. Yeah, the computer is just not having it today. So we're going phone.
That's right. Well, that's all right because, I don't even, get into the NFC North losers of the week. I'm going to go ahead and say it's Matt Nagy. There's so much, with that comment about him having fun and there's so much that doesn't seem like he's paying attention to. I just have to see, I think unfortunately we have to see him the rest of the season. I don't see them firing him. But he just has to be the loser of the week. I mean, he just there's too much mounting against him, and that was just kind of a public thing that hey, the Bears did well, and there are no moral victories, especially not versus the Packers.
No, yeah, that's probably a good call. I mean, you saw there was signs of life, right? When at least you see the pieces, like you see individual pieces, and you're like, oh, these are part of the puzzle. Yeah, no, for sure. But they're just like they're scattered about. You got a young quarterback, athletic, accurate for the most part. We'll see what he can do. You got a good Mooney's been just really solid, and I'd be excited as Bears fans for Mooney. Just kind of like good route runner, like fast, explosive player too. And then you got like the quick guys like Grant taking it to the house. You love to see that. And you see like, oh, okay, like there's some pieces here. And it's just clear that the coach can't put them together, right? Like it's like, oh, I got the puzzle, got the pieces. They're here for, a decent team, but the coach just refuses to let it happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, that Damiere Byrd touchdown, they talked about all season, like his speed, and that was really the first time the Bears actually had, in the middle, in space, and running to the, end zone. I mean, that just hasn't happened all season. You have him, that's why you brought him in, and coaching-wise, where has it been, So he's definitely a loser. Going to the winners, you have to be the Packers, right, Danielle?
Yeah, we're number 1 seed.
Number 1 seed, yes.
That's a big week.
And they facing the Ravens, they can clinch on Sunday, right?
Yeah, they can. I don't.
Or at least the division, right?
They
I
clinch
think it's just
playoffs.
if they win. It's just if they win, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then if they win out completely, they'll be number 1.
Control their destiny.
Well, and really they have, a very, I don't know, easy schedule, but a very winnable schedule, especially, with Aaron Rodgers. But, this week, facing the Ravens, who are depleted, may or may not have, Lamar Jackson. It is in Baltimore, so that's going to be interesting. But, really the Pack
pretty depleted too. Very depleted.
Well, yeah, Bakhtiari, he was practicing. Is he not going to play?
I want to say probably not. I doubt it, but never know. Matt LaFleur didn't even know he was going to be practicing, so who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you could afford to. Yeah, you could afford to let him rest a week.
Probably so. Yeah.
Well, if Lamar Jackson's hurt, like even if he plays in that ankle, what Lamar Jackson does best is with his legs, and if his ankle's bum, I mean, I see it being a tough week for them. Even though it's in Baltimore.
With them being such a run-heavy team, we just lost Kenny Clark today to COVID, and he's like our number 1 run stopper. So that's gonna be an interesting one if we don't have him, if Lamar can't run, or is Lamar going to be able to run enough because we don't have Kenny Clark? I don't know.
I feel like for real. I feel like it's almost any game this week feels like a toss up with just like the outrageous like COVID shenanigans around the league. You're just like,
well, every day we wake up every day and it's like, oh, now these 5 talented team from this team, the quarterback, 2 receivers, and their best middle linebacker, they're all on the COVID list, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
The Browns have both Browns quarterbacks are on COVID. I think they're Baker
and Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, Nick Mullins, SZN.
They've got about 20, I think, of their 53 on COVID, and there's another team that does too. I'm pretty sure the Rams are starting to come out with. It's gonna be going to be interesting.
Well, that's, with even the Lions last week, right? Even though it's not the Lions having some spectacular game, but they had the flu go through their locker room. They have 12 guys out with the flu and 7 guys out on the COVID list last week. There's no way they're going to compete. They were already a bad enough team. They weren't going to compete with their practice squad guys against the Broncos, but it's just affecting the whole league from the bottom dwellers to the top teams. Yeah. And if it strikes, you're just like, you don't know who you're going to lose,
Yeah. And the flu was really bad this year. Yeah.
It's all happening on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And you're like, I mean, well, even this last Monday night game, I didn't know like Higbee got put on right before the game. Like guys were, guys that could be possible that you probably already set your lineup or done things with. And it's just, it's crushing a lot of, especially fantasy playoff people that need
rough
people to play.
Yeah, rough. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and rub that in, Gridiron.
Well,
well, I got the bye week in the toilet bowl.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
In our league, I'm trying to hang in there.
I'm coming for you, Cooper.
Next week for sure.
So I also put NFC North winners of the week, Vikings ? They did win. And I don't know if you wanted to do your go ahead and
I'll keep it short this week. I'll spare the people. I've come on here and I've called some Vikings players and coaches some bad names. I've called Kirk Cousins a selfish prick on camera. But this isn't about that. This isn't about that. This is about the fans and the people who cover the team who just are positively apoplectic about that massive win.
Nice
the coverage was every bit as negative as the coverage after the Lions win, and like the response on Twitter, order doesn't matter. The order in which you score does not matter. It doesn't matter. I texted you guys this in the middle of the week. If I took every Vikings fan, I'll use better language this one. Every Vikings fan and got them together in a room and said, all right, this weekend, you are going to win 36-28. Kirk Cousins is going to throw a 60-yard dagger in the second half to the wide receiver 3. And to win the game, Harrison Smith is going to have the walk-off hit stick pass breakup in the end zone. Every one of them would have slammed yes. Yes, please. But after the game, I've never seen it more negative. And you guys know me. I'm not the most positive Vikings fan. I was disgusted. I was disgusted. And the next day I turned on my podcast driving to work. I'm like, let's see what they have to say. And it was just a flamethrower they took to the Viking squad. They were saying, why were they even celebrating? Why were you even happy? Like, why aren't you sad that you lost that game? So y'all need to calm down. Vikings, big win. Big performance. We got everything we wanted. We got another shoulder brace game out of Dalvin Cook, and that device will remain for this week, by the way. He's wearing the shoulder brace. He said he's not feeling pain, but he's still wearing it.
He might want to wear it for the rest of his career running like that.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 big wins.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Anyway, so that's it. Vikings, big win, and y'all need to calm down, grow up as fans. You should be used to it by now. We know it's the Vikings. They blow leads. It's funny, but come on, big win. Let's go. Big win.
It's the National Football League, and any win in the National Football League is a win that you should take because. And
Steelers are a good team. Yeah, you're right. I 100% agree. Yeah, 100% agree. That was a good win. I mean, maybe the win over the Lions, where Goff daggers you, and you'd be like, okay, yeah, that one was a little bit in the. But no, Steelers are a really good team. They have a good defense, good pass rush. Kirk Cousins under pressure, still got the ball. Good win. Anyway, that's it.
I mean,
that's all.
I bet if they were to win. If that was a game that could have got them into the playoffs or something like that, I guarantee the fans would have been perfectly fine with that win.
Yeah,
still a little hungover from that loss, I guess, but no, big win.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And let's just kind of switch gears here and let's talk about a team that's kind of not going to be in the playoffs. We do have Grubb. What are your thoughts? So we did have a question, Twitter question last week we wanted to get to from the Backshop podcast, and their question was, should Detroit tank for the number 1 pick?
And that's what, as I think we've talked and said before, I don't think they have to. I think, and as we were talking to Danielle earlier, she said they're going to tank naturally. I don't think they have to try to tank. I think they're going to tank, but they're not going to have to try to tank with their schedule. They play the Cardinals this week. And the Cardinals are going to be pissed coming off their game. So, and the Lions are still sick and have injuries and people in and out of the lineup anyway. They're not going to win. They're going to get stomped this week. Then they go to Atlanta, and again, they might win that. That could, it's Atlanta, but Atlanta has been rolling lately, and they actually have a chance at the 6-7 mark there to be in the playoffs.
That's so gross.
In the playoffs next week. If things work out for them, they'll be the team, the 7 seed in the playoffs next week. So
yeah. Atlanta's going to be in the playoffs with a negative 100 point differential.
Right. Yeah. So, but again, it's crazy. So Atlanta, I don't see, I can see that loss, and then going to Seattle. That's not a place the Lions are ready to win at right now, and especially if Russell Wilson's on his way out and the fans feel that, because they're going to be there in droves to root him on, because that city's cool like that. Like they're going to be there to root on. So that's going to be a loss for the Lions. And then they finish off with Green Bay. And the way the season's working out with the extra week, the extra teams in the playoffs, that's probably going to actually still be, I wouldn't say the most important game of Green Bay's season, but it might be an important game for their bye. So they're going to come out playing for at least 3 quarters until they have a big lead on the Lions. And then, so I don't think the Lions have to tank. I really don't. I think it's just going to happen because that's the remaining schedule says we don't have to try to tank.
And follow up to that, even if you did, you don't need to tank, right? But you end up with an overall pick. Do you even take a quarterback there? Really good edge rushers, really good corners in this draft.
See it well, or a lot of teams are talking about Hutchinson or a lot of fans in Detroit because he's a homebred boy from Michigan, and he's playing a DN at Michigan now and had a chance for the Heisman. So they're saying maybe bring that homegrown kid in, that everybody loves there, as because he would fit in there. That's his town. He's already, Michigan is his place. So I could see that not taking a quarterback this year, especially with what's going to come out over the next 2 years. So you have golf for at least next year.
Yeah, and he's guaranteed through next year too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry. So I could just see them saying, "Hey, let's play this out. Let's build. As we're bad over the next couple seasons, and we've got these extra first-round picks. Let's build up some things here and get going. Down the road." However, it's tough in the NFL because it's win now or get the hell out. And so we'll see how long any of that can last. Because you look at the Browns, they've brought in so many different regimes, and they only give them so many years, and then they're out.
Well, you got to show progress. Next year, right? You don't need to win the division next year, but you got to be like, okay, let's win a few of these close games, and Yeah.
So as far as their draft pick, I think that, again, they don't have to be 1, 2, or 3. It would be nice for them if they want to bring, because if you have the 1 pick, you get to draft whoever you want, and you don't have to worry about anybody jumping you or all those things. Or if the Lions wanted, there might be a team sitting there who wants a boatload for that one, 1 overall. So if you are the Lions, you can turn that into even more picks and not trade too far down in the draft and still get, one of your top 3 picks.
This is such a Detroit thing with 4 weeks left of the season. We're talking about draft.
Well, like Cooper was saying about the Vikings, he went on and was reading all the Vikings fans, and I went on and read all the Lions fans on Twitter, and I look at articles, and it's all about mock drafts and what's going to happen next year. And we literally have 4 weeks left plus the playoffs of this season. But Lions fans, that's why we've got Palm Springs behind me. Fans and team are already Palm Springing it up. They're at the pool. They're poolside with their drinks, and what are we going to do about it? So the Lions are talking about on Twitter. At least your guys' Twitter is about this season. Lions' Twitter is about next season.
I saw mock drafts are popping up for the Vikings. They're not. Mock drafts are popping up. They're like, which of the, we can get the 3rd best corner with the 14th pick, and it's like, God, who cares? Oh my God.
One thing I did want to bring up, I forgot to bring up with the Packers Bears game. Speaking of a quarterback who will probably be moving on next year to a different team, Aaron Rodgers had a really cool moment at the end of the game. Talk a little bit about that, Danielle.
When they have Kurt Baker go in, to do the victory snap, and it was because Rodgers went to LaFleur and asked him to let him do that. And I just don't understand where the narrative that Aaron Rodgers is such a bad teammate and such a bad leader, and like, where does that come from? Because I don't see that at all. I see a huge leader, someone who compliments his biggest rivalries players. He's just, there was a tweet I saw, someone's like, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers is being so nice today." It was a Bears fan talking about when Aaron was complimenting. I don't remember who Aaron was complimenting at that point in time. It was probably Justin Fields, I
Or
think.
Jalen Johnson, maybe.
Or some, it was one of
Jalen.
them. Or maybe Robert Quinn.
Oh,
I don't know. He was complimenting all left and right. But I mean, if you pay attention to him and you really, really pay attention to him and what he says in all of his pressers and interviews, he's very complimentary of a lot of people who are not Packers. And I think he is a great person. I do. All the COVID stuff aside that everyone wants to talk about him, I think he's a great person, a great leader, and a great teammate. And I think that just proved it when he had Kurt go out there. Because Kurt, I don't think has ever, he's been in the league for a few years and has never dressed at all. So I just think it was really big of him. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. But I wish people would just listen to him more and just pay attention to what he's really saying and what he's doing behind the scenes, because this narrative that's going on about him for the past a lot of years, that is just not true.
Although I was going to ask, yeah, I mean, and what were your thoughts when he was asked about whether he loves being a Packer, and his comments were he loves playing ball right now.
Playing ball. Yeah, I think it's a leverage thing.
Yeah.
I look at him and running out to the field and or it was on the practice field, coming back, and he because he hadn't really been practicing lately, so it was, I think, just one of the days that he had come back to actually practice, and he was dapping up Goody, and you see the big play. I don't know if you see, but I see the big plays on the sideline. Him and LaFleur embracing each other all the time. Pretty much Aaron jumping up in the air and LaFleur grabbed him. They just look like they're having so much fun, and just the way that Aaron talks about his teammates, and just how much fun they're having and all the success they're having this year. I really don't think he wants to leave. He doesn't, to me, does not seem like he wants to leave. But I think those comments were just leverage. Like, oh crap, does he want to leave? We gotta figure out a way to make him stay. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. If he's gonna stay, he wants to be the one who wins, right? The battle between the front office. Yeah.
He's not going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, I want to be a Green Bay Packer the rest of it." Aaron Rodgers is not going to come out and say that, whether he wants to be or not. Yeah. And we should all know better, not to read into too much of that. But of course, the media is going to run away with that for sure. But.
Well, I think going into that, Danielle, that I think the media, when you say the media, has caused a lot of the grief of Aaron Rodgers, because you know who Aaron Rodgers doesn't really get along with is like the beat reporters, because he kind of has this arrogance about him towards them. Like when he's being interviewed, I bet on the side he's really nice to him, but when they talk to him, he kind of has this sense about him. And I think what that does is then that media narrative takes over, and they take that and they spin it into some negative things because they feel slighted. I think that's how it's gone for Aaron Rodgers, because you do hear, I mean, the guy was fighting to get Jake Kumaro. I mean, come on. I mean, you know that these guys, these teammates and these people with him, like all the guys that have left, like you never hear anybody say, I really hated playing with Aaron Rodgers. He was such a scumbag. Like you don't hear that, you know? And so I think he does have a good presence in that locker room. He's a good team guy. And sometimes the media doesn't like the way he says things. And so they kind of then pile on that with him. And I think that's kind of knocked him down over the last few seasons, where it's been more of a pile on by the media than actually what Aaron Rodgers is as a teammate,
Yeah. I think I would agree. I think he's probably a very good teammate, right? Everyone does seem to like him. I think his perception, right, while being exacerbated by like the media and the Twitter sphere, because that's what it's designed to do, is he's a little bit of a psycho, right? And he really comes off as one, like, you know. So like it's hard to when someone. You know, and we all know he's a world-class grudge holder. That's like what he's famous for, right? But like, there's just like a couple things where it's like, ooh, that dude, like,
he's a grudge holder.
Exactly. And it's just, it's
a grudge holder. If you're the grudge holder, then you're really like, and he is. He's only an asshole to the people he holds grudges to.
Exactly. Yeah, and he's very publicly an asshole to them. So like, is that an asshole? Maybe, but not to his teammates.
If he doesn't have a grudge against you, he's like,
Yep.
You're cool, man, and you're probably cool to Aaron Rodgers, you know, and it's all good. But
I'd be cool to Aaron Rodgers.
As soon as there's a grudge, you better not be on the grudge side of Aaron Rodgers, because he's also going to air it to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Aaron Rodgers, the teammate, the leader.
Got to end on a positive note. Yeah.
That's he's good.
Good teammate
in my book when it comes to the teammate and the leader, and really bringing up the young players around the league. You know what I mean? So we'll stick with the teammate.
I bet you couldn't find one player that would speak ill of him. I bet you couldn't.
Yeah.
He really.
But
he
doesn't even talk to parents.
Danielle's right again Danielle's right again on that subject of. I mean, look at a lot of these receivers. That have been his receivers. They were no names, and Aaron Rodgers didn't just make. You know, a lot of teams have receivers that the quarterback makes. He helped develop these guys. They know how to run smart patterns. They know how to run the plays, especially the way that Aaron Rodgers wants to throw them. And you know, he raises these guys, these running backs, these receivers, and you know, nobody's ever heard of Alan Lazard until he started a few seasons playing with Aaron Rodgers, who can build them up. And that's just what the guy, that's why I say you can see he's a great teammate, a great leader, because these guys that are nobodies that were undrafted or drafted late, or, you know, I mean, why do you think Randall Cobb wants to come back? He wants to catch some touchdowns and run some patterns and get back into that groove. So that's just how I feel. I think that Danielle's right. He helps raise some of these kids, man. he really has.
But not only that, but I mean, like when he talks about Justin Fields, for instance, other players that don't play for the Packers, the young kids coming in to the league, he always has just words of wisdom for them. Everything he thinks that they do well.
Yeah.
He I don't know what wording I'm looking for here, but he's just always complimenting them, and I think he cares about them as players and seeing them succeed. So. Well,
I think somebody got it right. I was watching something the other day. I don't know, it was an announcer or a NFL show where they said, you know, Aaron Rodgers is like your cool, crazy uncle. You know, he's the guy that'll discipline you and get you in the right place, but he's also like the guy who'll say how it is. And so he's just kind of like that father figure, but as an uncle, you know, like uncles can have that special bond with like their nephews, you know, and things like that. And he kind of has that. Aaron Rodgers,
like an uncle that fought in Vietnam and is kind of crazy, but but he really loves you. Yeah. That's awesome. No, I wow. This is a very complimentary podcast of Aaron Rodgers right now.
It's not
deserved, but players like him. Why wouldn't they? You never. Yeah.
Well, speaking of a series that's kind of looks like Vietnam at times, the Bears-Vikings. We have a Monday night showdown. What do you see as keys this week for the Vikings, Cooper?
Well, one thing, keys for the Vikings, the bad men are all sidelined. The werewolves are it's not a full moon, right? So Eddie Goldman, who just murders the Vikings every time. Akeem Hicks, who equally, if not more so, brutalizes the Vikings every time, is out. And Khalil Mack, who is also not as devastating as those two over the last few years, because the Vikings tend to have better tackle play than they do guard play. Khalil Mack is out, and that helps a lot too. So this has got to be a Kirk Cousins game. It just has to be. The defense is not what it, and I know like the turf sucks, like no one plays good in Soldier Field, but whatever. You got an all-pro wide receiver and some just decent weapons around you, and the bad men are not coming for you, right? If you fold to this front, then it's like, okay, come on. You know, not that it's going to be an easy win or anything, but I think Kirk Cousins, this is like, okay, step up, like win a game when like, because the Vikings got to win almost out. Because of the way that Philadelphia and Washington are going to play each other twice.
Right.
So the Vikings, and those are the only two teams that they're racing. So it's like, oh, they can't lose out so much, can they? Someone's going to do well in that.
Split.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, must win for the Vikings. So the run game is going to be key. The offensive front and Kirk Cousins, like that is going to be super key. We know the receivers are going to do their thing. Justin Jefferson's going to do his thing. Thielen might play. If he does, he'll do his thing. But that offensive line that they seem to have found a rhythm with the late season scramble, moving Cole over to guard off the bench and having Udo pop out. But they had a good game last game, right? So if that unit and Kirk Cousins, if they can protect Kirk Cousins, which they should be able to do, and if Kirk Cousins can do what he normally does when he's protected, and short of that, just overcome, right? If there's second stringers who are breaking through, like make a goddamn play. All right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Aaron Donald against Kyler Murray last night, right? Yeah. If there's people that I see this as a must perform for Kirk Cousins. And that's really going to be the key to victory, because I feel like this Bears team is going to move the ball. Vikings just don't have a good secondary. And the Bears always seem to run really well against them, better than other teams as well. And the run defense hasn't been good either. So I feel like it's going to be a reasonable scoring game, and it's just going to be straight on Kirk Cousins this one to win, because it's there for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. And, I was kind of writing some things, thinking about some things, Vikings definitely starting fast, but you kind of look at on the Bears side, definitely controlling the line of scrimmage. I think that's going to be huge. On the defensive side, limiting Cook. I don't know how you do that, but
you do. I mean, he's human this year. I think it's possible.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And I think so that would be a key. Definitely. Jalen Johnson, took a step up, in being able to do what he did against Devontae Adams. And so he's got that capability, what it comes down to is coaching. Will they kind of, as the Packers did, move Jefferson around? And in Jefferson, I mean, he's great route running, so it's going to be tough. But they're going to have to do that. I thought Thielen might be out from what I'm seeing, but it's going to be tough. I mean, they're going to have to stop that. But the biggest thing, I think you talked about it, is running the ball. Montgomery, they're just going to have a huge game that way. And I think also, in that, what I liked from Fields during the Packers Bears game, I should say Bears-Packers game, is that he was able to get outside contain and just really, make some plays happen. And, if the Vikings are going to really need to contain him, I think that'll be important. And then one last thing that I thought, I heard obviously the Bears did well on special teams versus the Packers. But the Vikings also have a great, special teams. And
what a turnaround from last year. I haven't talked about it at all this year, but Barry, the Aussie punter, has just been on fire. So the field position battle, and it's too bad we didn't have a punter like him in like the prime Zimmer years when we really played like punt from the 4th and 1 from the other team's 40, punt it and pin them type of football,
Right.
But and that'll be interesting. That'll be fun. That'll be a fun matchup, kicking out there in Soldier Field.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the next game, when it's, indoors for Minnesota, who do you see winning this game, Cooper?
everything in front of you makes you think the Vikings. The Bears don't look that good right now.
Right.
But I'm so traumatized by that GD field that it's hard. Like, so I know Teddy came out with a big win. Kirk has had a big win there. But boy, has it been just a house of horrors for the Vikings over the past decade or two. I see the Vikings winning this because I want that to be my expectation. If you don't win this game, you are decidedly not a playoff team, and it's time to rebuild. Not that it's like an easy win or something like that. This is just, if you want to be a contender, and if you tell us you're a contender on the offseason, you tell us you're a contender in preseason, you tell us you're a contender when you have a losing record,
yeah,
then like finally got to prove it and beat a team that is kind of floundering, doesn't have great personnel, doesn't attack your weaknesses very well right now. Because normally that's been the thing. It's like, oh, the Vikings more talented, but Nagy is good against Zimmer, and their front seven is just terrifying. So the Bears front seven not as terrifying, and that being the case, I think the Vikings should win this one, but I don't think it's going to be very high scoring.
Well, I'll let each of you kind of do your score thoughts, and I'll give mine at the end. Cooper, what do you think in this?
2017. 20-17 Vikings. 20-17 Vikings.
What do you think, Grubb?
Yeah, man, shoot. I think, gosh, it is. It's tough. It's tough. I think the Vikings should win the game, but every week that I think the Vikings should win the game is the week that the Vikings lose the game.
Yeah. And
so it's tough. It's tough, but I agree with Cooper. It's not going to be high scoring. It's going to be who makes that mistake at the end of the game. I think one of those type things, and so
both elite end game mistake making franchises as well.
Yeah. But Fields, he's young and he doesn't see the field that well yet. Like really, he doesn't. The blitzes and the things get to him, and Zimmer does that good. So there's again, it's like when the Vikings played the Lions. There's like two outcomes here. If the Vikings come out and play good with their game plan because Zimmer can get it on, I cod see a blowout. I really could, even though it's a rivalry game. But I don't see the Vikings doing that. So I'm going to say 23 to 20. Like I say, that something at the end of the game, Vikings, maybe weird. They get the interception. Maybe they make the play, and it's 23-20 Vikings, hoping that they actually make the game-winning play. So 23-20 Vikings from my end.
What do you think, Danielle?
I hope they tie.
There's a chance of that. There's a strong chance of that.
3-3 tie. Dub Bears 3-3 with the tie. The Bears still win because they have Ditka and Fields.
Since the Bears came out, they came out doing well that first half against the Packers. So I don't see why they couldn't do it again. I think they'll get a couple touchdowns, at least 14-21, and I think that Dalvin gets at least 2 of those touchdowns.
So you have the Vikings winning 21-14.
Yeah. And a lot of it is like, so
yeah.
I feel like Zimmer's kind of lost his fastball, but he still does have a really good record against rookie QBs. That is something that I didn't bring in, but Grubb pointed out. That's what do you think, Andy? What do you think the score?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess I forgot to bring up that Fields mistake versus the Packers. I mean, he did a lot of great things, but he did that rookie mistake was, eyeing down the receiver, and then that pick six. I mean, that that definitely turned the game. He's going to make those plays, and that's an interesting point with Zimmer. And I don't think the Bears have quite enough yet. And I did this before on one of our podcasts. I almost gave the Vikings a little bit too much credit because you're always guessing that they're going to win by 3, and you've been right, Cooper. So
it's common. It's common to give the Vikings too much credit.
So I made my pick before you guys all, gave yours. And I think the Vikings are going to win 27-17. I just don't know the Bears have enough. So it's a clean sweep, and quite frankly, it was exciting to see the Bears do well at Lambeau Field, but it was, just a facade, and I don't know what a win versus the Vikings will do other than prolong the inevitable. You just see, Nagy being fired, and I definitely see the Vikings winning this game.
And I see, like, with your score, if you played this game on paper, right? If you played this game on a spreadsheet, I feel like that's a reasonable score.
Right.
And that's why I almost wanted to go with that, right? With a bolder prediction, but it's like, God, that place, I'm just so tormented by this franchise and that field, that damn field, that I just can't bring myself to give them more than a 3-point advantage in this one.
Yeah. Great point. Well, obviously it's week 15 of the NFL schedule. Thankfully, we've gotten here so far. There's a lot of COVID issues. Any other final parting thoughts for this week for anyone? Oh, we got a
order doesn't matter.
Scared me.
The order in which you score does not matter.
Look for the Lions. Everybody's excited for them to look outside the building for offensive coordinator, but word on the street is probably inside the building that they're starting the search with. And it's a tight end coach, Ben Johnson. I guess some of their successful plays that have been creative over the last 3 or 4 weeks that have got them points or made big plays have been kind of thought up with his kind of instructions. So they're actually starting to take a liking to him. So look for Ben Johnson to be a name that gets circulated for Lions O coordinator. So somebody you never heard of.
They're building the culture out there. They're building the culture out there in Detroit.
That's right.
Yeah.
What about the Packers culture? Are they ready to clinch?
Yeah, they're gonna clinch. Yeah, I don't see them not clinching. But this is going to be another game, this Ravens game, where it's going to be next man up. Kenny Clark has big shoes to fill, especially against a running team, like I said. But I think they will get it done. They've been getting it done with the next man all season, so I think they'll do it again.
Next man up, yeah. Got to end with the Packers. They're obviously the class of the division. It's been another great week. Let's just get through it with all the COVID stuff, right?
Yeah, we got to power through.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
once fantasies.
Exactly. Once again, it's been Freezin 4 NFC North Podcast. I am NFL Dated. You can find me on Twitter.
I'll go next. My name is Cooper. You can find me at Uneducated Takes on Twitter.
My name is Danielle, and you can find me at Danny in the Snow on Twitter.
And I'm Gridiron Grubb, and you can find me at Gridiron Grubb all over the place.
That's true.
Over the place.
Everywhere.
Including Palm Springs.
Including Palm Springs.
Do you live in Palm Springs?
No.
Oh.
No. That's why I have pictures.
All right, there it is. All right.
Nice. See you guys.
Bye. Have a great week.
You too.